Joining me now is the political director to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. Balázs Orbán is with us. Balázs, thanks very much for being here today. Your reaction to what's happening right now between President Trump and Zelensky.
Good morning, Maria. Thanks for having me. I think the best news is that after 3 very hard years, we finally have negotiations between the United States and Russia. And this is very important because this war has a devastating consequence, I think, on America, but definitely on Europe and Hungary. So it should be ended as quickly as it is possible. And what President Trump said is just, these are just facts, and you don't argue with facts. You try to make a deal.
So what is the sentiment in Europe right now? I mean, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said that Trump's comments on Ukraine are intended to shock Europe into action. Johnson writes this on X: when are we Europeans going to stop being scandalized about Donald Trump and start helping him to end this war? In particular, the U.S. can see $300 billion of frozen Russian assets, mainly in Belgium. That is cash that could and should be used to pay Ukraine and compensate for the U.S. for its support. Balázs, what are your thoughts here in terms of the sentiment in Europe over President Trump's first month in office?
So I think the European warmonger liberals are in shock. That's true. But it's good news for those who want to have a peace around Ukraine. In the last 3 years, there was a liberal plan on how to win the war, but it failed. It failed miserably. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people dying, millions leaving the country. The country economically is in a bankruptcy. It relies only on foreign aid. So we should realize that the situation is changing, and we should end this war quickly. There was a news about the negotiations between America and Russia. Immediately, energy prices went down. Immediately, stock markets went up. Immediately, the Hungarian currency became stronger. So I think we should push back the warmonger liberals who were actually behind Biden in the last 3 years, and they were arguing in favor of continuation of the war. For what? We should stop this as much and as quickly as we can.
Right. No, and I know what you're referring to when you're talking about these foreign policy issues and, of course, the war. But Europeans are also upset or unsure of President Trump's tariffs as well. I mean, Emmanuel Macron just the other day called for an emergency meeting about Trump. So the sentiment in Europe, do they not understand what this president is efforting?
I think Brussels is now the most isolated power center of the world, because what they did in the last 3 years, they cut ties with the Russians because of the war, and Russia was the most important supply for energy for Europe. They started a trade war against China. Although China is the biggest market for Europe. And they were mocking President Trump for like years, although he is now the president of United States. So it means that they are totally in a dead-end street, and they are totally isolated, and they can't find a way out. This is why there is a lot of frustration in Brussels. My concern is not that America is having an America First policy. I think it's great. It's great for America, and it's great for my country as well, because if America can have an America First policy, then my country, Hungary, can have Hungary First policy as well. And based on having this basis, we can have very good deals. My concern is Europe, led by the Brazilian liberals. They are not able to stand up to defend their own interests, and they are getting isolated, and they are shocked, and they are attacking by words everybody who wants to make good deals with them. This should be stopped.
And what's your sense of the economic backdrop there? Balázs, when I was in Davos earlier this year, it was all about Trump. There was conversations about optimism over the United States and Trump reigniting this optimism compared to Europe, which has structural issues. A lot of negativity about Europe right now. How would you assess the backdrop in terms of the economy?
I think now we have a leadership problem in Europe. The strongest countries in Europe, France and Germany, they have leadership problems, and the Brussels bureaucracy is led by liberals with the same ideas which were presented by Joe Biden and his team in the last 4 years, which had terrible consequences. So I think Europe can only be saved if we have a new type of leadership in Brussels. There will be elections, and now the patriotic type of governments are getting stronger, and they want to push back the liberals and kick them out from Brussels, as it has happened in DC.
Balázs, it's great to have this conversation. Thanks very much for being here. Please come back soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Balázs Orbán in Hungary. Stay with us.